Hey guys, Adrian here, your Digital Dojo from, of course, DigitalDojos.com, and this is a new web series episodic content show, I guess you can call it, that I'm calling Dojo Discusses, where you guys, the viewers, can ask me questions, and I'm gonna try and, I'm not haven't decided the schedule yet, but bring episodic content to you where I answer that, give you my opinions on whether or not you should upgrade, all pertaining to that of technology and whether or not you should upgrade to certain products, buy new things, stuff pertaining to that of the new releases in terms of hardware and software. And with that, let's jump into episode 1. Today, I want to talk about something that is obviously big news this week. That is the Apple event that just recently passed, and that is, of course, comparing apples to apples. A lot of new software announcements, a lot of new hardware announcements, whether or not you should upgrade based on my personal opinion and weighing it out in a way, what I want to do with every episode, pros versus cons. You know, what's the final verdict on my opinion, whether or not you should upgrade and or not. So that said, let's jump into it. Should you upgrade? And the topics we're going to be taking a look at today pertaining to Apple is that of OS X Mavericks, iLife and iWork suite, and the iPad Air and Mini 2nd generation. So, OS X Mavericks, number 1. First off, what are that of the new features in Mavericks? Well, Mavericks has a ton of new features in terms of optimization for hardware, battery life, running more efficient on your Mac, of course, iBooks, multi-display support, notification center, a lot of these kind of new UI enhancements on top of the whole OS X environment. Now that said, what are the pros? Well, the pros of upgrading, of course, would be that of it's free. You're not really paying anything. There is no upgrade. Apple made the upgrade completely free for your Macs. On laptops, it does a great job of increasing battery life, something I did with my MacBook Air. You see definitely an increase in battery life in terms of the optimization with the hardware. And of course, it's easy. It's super easy. You just jump into a Mac App Store, and if your Mac is compatible, which it has a long list of compatibility, you can go ahead and upgrade to OS X Mavericks. Cons, really, there isn't much. Unless you have software that isn't compatible with OS X Mavericks, which the installer will tell you, that's the only reason I can see you not really needing to upgrade or wanting to upgrade. And of course, the fact if you're unable to, if you're just on a really, really ancient Mac, or you just don't have the hardware, which is only like 2 gig RAM requirements to upgrade to OS X Mavericks. So, the final verdict, it's simple, upgrade. I really feel OS X Mavericks brings some cool new features. While it's not earth-shattering, it's a free upgrade nonetheless. It's a whole new operating system, and you're up to date, and your Mac is running more efficient and faster. Number 2, the iLife and iWork suite. This is another announcement that Apple announced that is free for new users and paid for specific users if you haven't already, like let's say you're on an older Mac and you haven't purchased the suite. So some of the new features, well, obviously all new app designs for iMovie, iPhoto, Pages, Keynote, Numbers, all of these have gotten all new UI layouts, designs, new features integrated, cool new stuff, and especially that not just of the OS X platform, but of the iOS platform. The iPhone, the iPads have all gotten new UI tweaks for their applications as well, so there's a ton of new apps. The pros, of course, being it's free for, again, certain users. If you buy a new iPhone, if you buy a new iPod, if you buy any new iOS or Mac device, you will get these bundled with your device. It has all new UI, so much more simplified, and depending on your taste, it's cleaner UIs, upgraded, and especially that of the iOS 7, and it's made to complement the iOS 7 enhancements. Last but not least, there are some new key features integrated into stuff like iMovie, etc. The cons, I think really what it all comes down to is the learning curve, because to be honest, like I said, they're just new learning curve, and if you're comfortable with the old ones, then you don't need to upgrade. But again, if you already own the old ones, it's a free upgrade. If you have bought a new device, it's a free upgrade. The only reason you wouldn't want to, you don't need to upgrade is that if you have never purchased Suite, if you use something like Microsoft Office, maybe use Google Docs, then there is no need to pay for the new feature or new suites unless you really need them. And again, I know a lot of people complain about the price, but these paid apps are definitely cheap for what they offer. And I think if you really do need them, then you'll be willing to spend the money. So my verdict is definitely upgrade. Again, if you're on the free side, and if you are just somebody who's on the side of buying a new suite and you need a new suite, and you don't want to use Office and you don't want to use Google Docs, then I think it's still a valid choice to upgrade to these new iWork and iLife suites. Last but not least, the biggest hardware announcement, that of the iPad Air and the iPad Mini 2nd generation. First off, let's go ahead and talk about the iPad Air. Spec-wise, it's a 9.7 Retina display running the new A7 processor with a new M7 coprocessor for the motion and all that. Has a slimmer profile, much more slimmer bezel than the previous generation, the 4th generation, and its big touting feature, it's super light. It's called the Air because it weighs in just at 1 pound with that new slimmer profile and design. They really compact a lot into it. That said, it starts at $500 like all traditional iPads, and it's not competing, but in comparison with that of the iPad mini 2nd generation. The spec list, of course, being the 7-inch Retina screen, that was the big touting feature, and of course the A7 and M7. So looking at it at the new $400 price point, comparison, they're spec for spec exactly the same. You're going to have the same resolution whether you're on the full-size iPad or you're on the mini end of things. It's still the same resolution, just a smaller screen versus bigger screen, smaller profile versus, I guess, even smaller profile. So this is a little bit different on whether you should upgrade. This really varies, and that's why my verdict kind of goes in on depends. Because the thing is here, if you're in the iPad 4th gen, there's not too much that you're going to need to upgrade, I think, for the iPad Air. I feel like this is still a really fast device with iOS 7, still a solid device. I really feel that the $500 price point to buy a new iPad, unless you really need to, you're not going to see super enhancements with the new A7 and M7. It's much more lighter, yes, so if you feel like this is too heavy, I guess, you could upgrade. The iPad, I think it's a little bit more of a different thing. The iPad mini 1st gen doesn't have the Retina screen, so I can see that definitely being a better choice to upgrade. You're getting a Retina screen, you're getting a faster device. Again, the iPad mini 1st gen isn't super slow, but you're paying that extra $70 they raise in price for that new Retina display. So this is a real depends. If you were on the previous generations, I think you don't need to upgrade. Now, whether or not, again, it's also a big choice of whether or not which one you should buy, the Air and the Mini, because again, spec for spec wise, they're exactly the same. So in terms of if you're buying a new tablet and you don't know which one to get, well, that really comes down to form factor. Do you want the smaller form factor of the iPad Mini 2nd gen, or do you want the full screen size and 1 pound iPad Air for $100 price difference? That really is all up to you. So that, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first edition of the Dojo Discusses, where I'm going to go in depth on topics just like these. It's not always going to be Apple, don't worry. It's going to be varying, Apple, Microsoft, all these different things, and you guys can give your feedback. Of course, like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not subscribed, check out all the links down below, DigitalDojos.com, my Twitter page, and of course, you can email me any feedback at DigitalDojos@gmail.com. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed. This has been episode 1 of the Dojo Discusses.